GM Clayton, it's good to finally meet you. You are the head of BD at Babylon. We've been supporting Babylon since 2022 as node operators. But before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? How did you end up in crypto and how did you land at the Babylon?
Yeah, definitely. So I discovered crypto in general in 2014 through interesting web forums when I was younger. Bought some Bitcoin then, probably lost some of it along the way. But I joined Figment in 2020, and that was my first full-time role in the space. Figment's an institutional staking provider. So most of my life, all of my professional life has been centered around, scaling proof-of-stake ecosystems. I joined Babylon in September of 2024. I'm the head of BD, so my day-to-day is generally focusing on, supply and demand side of the marketplace, making sure that people have places to stake, making sure that, that function is embedded, and, the right wallets, the right exchanges, right custodians, etc. Making sure that our validators are, well, prepared for the things that we're going to do on the network side. And then on the demand side, it's a lot of relationship building and, application developers, LSTs, and the overall community.
Right now, Babylon has $4.5 billion staked. But can you tell me what exactly is Babylon and what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, I think the, overall goal of the project is to get more Bitcoin in a usable form on decentralized rails. Bitcoin is the largest crypto asset in the space, but the majority of its usage actually is existing on centralized platforms, which is strange because it's the oldest asset in the space. Not strange because I think the reason why it's so valuable is because the functionality of the network is very simple. That being said, there's really no decentralized benefit for all the money that's being made through this trading activity and the financialization of it as an asset class. So outside of, the security value, the liquidity value, and the overall goals of us as a BSN ourselves, the more idealistic, vision for us is to unlock the power of Bitcoin for a wider range of network participants.
And basically you are unlocking all this power through the staking mechanism.
Yeah, the staking mechanism is one part, right? But, I think acknowledging that Bitcoin community, holders, whether it be not your keys, not your crypto folks, idealistic people or institutions, the thing that's most important is security. So
basically share security.
Well, no, security of the transaction.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, what goes beyond that, right? So the staking functionality, yes, for sure, is the most important part that we've been focusing on up until this time. But beyond that, right, the Babylon chain will, be a BSN at its own right. There will be smart contracts that will be live on the network. There will be some, way to, participate with Bitcoin in DeFi on Babylon chain. And so that security function becomes important as well, right? Interoperability needs to be secure. The Babylon Genesis chain needs to be secure. And so the ultimate goal is to have all of these layers secured by staked Bitcoin, which really encompasses the value proposition into a wider offer.
And what are exactly the benefits of staking Bitcoin in Babylon compared to other traditional yield strategies?
Yeah, so I think since it is kind of a proof of stake design, you can use the term yield, but I think it's good to distinguish protocol staking from DeFi staking in the sense of there's no counterparty risk to this functionality besides the protocol itself and what validator you choose to delegate to. That being said, you can run your own validator and delegate to that as well. But really, we've tried to simplify the staking experience as much as possible. And I think a good thing to mention is staking Ethereum is pretty complicated. Like, and it's pretty like difficult for, anyone that doesn't have more than 32 ETH, anyone that doesn't have the capabilities of running a validator themselves. You generally go through, an LST vehicle or a centralized exchange, which isn't a bad thing, right? But, ultimately our solution offers more optionality for those folks in the sense of like, there's a minimum staking requirement, but it's a very small amount of Bitcoin. It's also like a more digestible staking functionality compared to the complexities of staking Ethereum for institutions as well. I also will say, there's no entry queue or exit queue in Bitcoin staking. So, there's a theoretical scenario where like, $10 billion of ETH wants to be staked or unstaked. That line to get into or out of the staking pool can become months, if not years, depending on how much one's unbond at any point in time. That's a huge risk, not just for institutions, but for retail as well. Our unbonding period is a flat 7 days no matter what. So even if there's like a scenario where 75% of our TVL wants to unbond all at the same time, you only have to wait a week to get out. And there's no line in that function. So
Is it like a minimum or a maximum requirement for Bitcoin to be staked?
no minimum. And so, yeah, it's not a pure proof of stake protocol like Ethereum. It's a delegated proof of stake protocol. So yeah, you don't need to bring your own validator, so to speak. You don't have to trust your validator, so to speak, as well. You can always undelegate. So I would say the experience is more like a delegating on Solana or like a Cosmos shit.
Okay. A couple of hours ago, you guys announced Babylon Genesis, which is the first Bitcoin secure network. How does Babylon Genesis act as a Bitcoin secure layer 1, and why is that important for blockchain security?
Yeah, I mean, we have always had the chain, aspect of the roadmap in the roadmap. And really it's going to act as a control plane long term between, the Bitcoin stakes and every other Bitcoin secured network once we decide to onboard those folks. We don't want to onboard them too soon, which is why we decided to be the first one, making sure that it works well. Once it does work well, we will open up the opportunity for other people to connect to Bitcoin security. But the reason why us having a chain as this like neutral place is important is we don't want to, be in a position to where it feels like an obligation to support or, partner or work with, everyone that, is doing stuff on the staking side when these folks are trying to build their own like DeFi ecosystems. With that in mind, though, we also need a place where there's a neutral place where everyone can, experience everything that they're doing on the staking side without having to necessarily need to trust a specific area. We may have like, motives that go beyond just, the Babylon staking protocol.
And when can we expect the chain's mainnet, and what kind of challenges do you foresee?
Well, if we foresee challenges, we definitely will not launch the mainnet, because there's a huge risk to doing that.
Always a risk on launching chains.
Yeah. But I mean, we will not launch the chain if we perceive risk. But the goal is to launch it later this quarter. And yeah, we're fairly excited about that.
Babylon is an important part in the Cosmos ecosystem. And I want to know what's your take on what's happening right now in the eco, because right now it's a leadership shift. Magma and Barry are leading the charge, and how do you see Babylon's role evolving in the Cosmos?
Yeah, I mean, love Mag and Barry. I've known them for a while. I think there is this, kind of cultural change that's happening within the ecosystem, and people are, coming back to the ecosystem, A, because the tech is very good, but, B, I think, people want to be a part of this, like, new sovereign, chain ideology that's like all interconnected. Like it always made sense. There was obviously, a scenario where it didn't make sense for a bit due to the Terra collapse. But at the end of the day, I mean, you have us leveraging that technology. You have RWA platforms like Mantra and Ondo leveraging this. Parachain is using some version of Comet VFT. Initial is as well. A lot of emerging blockchains are coming back to this technology, and I think that shows how future-proof it actually is.
Are there any key partnerships within the Cosmos ecosystem that Babylon is particularly excited about looking ahead?
Yeah, I mean, we love, all of the folks that are supporting us or plan to support us on the bridging side. So, Axelar, Skipco, Union, also, folks that, we've been engaging with on, potentially becoming a BSN. So, osmosis, potentially even the Cosmos Hub is exploring it, which is exciting. But yeah, I mean, I think in the long run, we are going to be this source of Bitcoin liquidity for the broader ecosystem, and we want to make sure that we're connected in the right places to where everyone can access it, regardless of what chain they're on.
So every user at the end of the day could have all the necessary infrastructure so they can delegate without having any issues.
Yeah, hopefully, and there's not a lot of counterparty risk in the bridging through IBC, which is nice. And yeah, I think, having some unity around, Bitcoin as an asset and how it's being used in Cosmos is nice to have for sure.
Before we wrap this up, do you have any thoughts or messages for the Babylon community or even the Cosmos ecosystem?
Thanks for riding with us.
Hey, thank you for this, Clayton. It was a pleasure, man.
That was good.